Hello, and welcome to Central Booking, where writers and readers are the authority. I'm your host, John Valeri. If you grew up in the 80s like I did, chances are you chugga-chuggered your way through childhood right along with today's guest. Sharon Hampson of the iconic North American children's entertainment trio Sharon, Lois, and Bram. We're also joined by her daughter Randi, who has managed Sharon and Bram in recent years, spearheaded their latest album and book projects, and now performs with Sharon as Bram enjoys his retirement. Sharon, Lois, and Bram first went out to play with the 1978 record One Elephant, Deux Éléphants. Originally conceived as a one-time collaboration, the album, which was nominated for a Juno Award and eventually certified triple platinum for sales in excess of 500,000 copies, instead launched a long and lucrative career. It also introduced the two songs, One Elephant and Skinnamarink, that would open and close every episode of the enormously popular Sharon, Lois, and Bram's Elephant Show. In fact, Skinnamarink, a song about universal love and inclusivity, became the trio's signature tune, also closing out every live concert performance. Most recently, the song was adapted for 2019's children's book of the same name, featuring additional lyrics by Randi and illustrations by Chin Lang. The book was a national bestseller and has sold more than 50,000 copies. It's just one highlight among countless others. More than 20 albums, 2 hit television shows, 6 national TV specials, 3 songbooks, numerous Juno, Parents' Choice, and American Library Association awards, and millions of copies sold. Sharon, Lois, and Bram played every major concert hall in Canada and many throughout the United States, including Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, and the White House, as well as a limited engagement on Broadway. They were also inducted into the Order of Canada, the country's highest honor. While Lois retired from the stage in the year 2000 and passed away in 2015, Sharon and Bram continued performing together into their 41st year, and in 2019 released the Juno-nominated album Sharon and Bram and Friends, their first without Lois. On August 27th, Sharon, Randi, and other members of their musical family will perform a one-night-only, live-in-your-living-room virtual concert, Skinnamarink, and they've coaxed Bram out of retirement to join them. Stay tuned for all the exciting details. Now, a rig-a-jig-jig and away we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to an fantastic episode of Central Booking today. I am so thrilled to be in virtual company with Sharon and Randi Hampson. Sharon, of course, you know, is 1/3 of the iconic children's entertainment trio, Sharon, Lois, and Bram. And this is really cool. And I realized that I just found a way to find myself in Canada, even though I'm from America. So, I'm virtually transported into your home. But Sharon, Randi, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to our homes.
For having us. Yeah.
My pleasure. Talk about live in your living room or some kind of room. So this is a real thrill for me. I've, talked to a lot of big names, and I don't know if there's a bigger name in my life than Sharon. It's been a lot of years. And I don't think I ever imagined that I would have the opportunity to be teleporting through a computer and talking to you in some kind of real time. So thank you for honoring me with that. And thank you, Randi, for answering my email and not being like, what a nutter, because that would have been easy to do. But, I was thinking about it and I was trying to think, how could you explain Sharon, Lois, and Bram's music and the impact that has had, because it's been 42 years now. It goes on and on and on. And Sharon, you have so much energy that you go on and on and on. And I think that that's wonderful, but I was thinking about it because I am a child, of the 80s, and I really think that your music was to children of the 80s and 90s, sort of kind of like the pandemonium of the Beatles to teenagers and 20-somethings in the 60s. Like, it was a big, big thing. And that's about
it. And much to our surprise, we did not embark on a career. We embarked on the one project, making a record called One Elephant, Deux Éléphants. But the audiences are so wonderful and so loving. And, no matter how you feel before you get on stage, you always feel better by the time you get off.
Sure. And it's funny that you would mention that album because, like you said, you thought that you were recording one album together and it started this, multi-decade career. And of course, it introduced a version of Skinnamarink. This book is so huge, I can barely fit it onto my computer screen. But, you know, that song has sort of become iconic in and of itself, and it was included in that first album. And 40 some odd years later, now there's the Skinnamarink book. So can you talk about why you wanted to revisit Skinnamarink for a book project, and what of that message you think resonates so deeply still today?
Well, Skinnamarink, the song, we had no idea how universal it would become. But from the first time we ever sang it, which was at Young People's Theater when we launched our first record, One Elephant, from that day forward, we have always sung it at the end of everything we do. Concerts, TV shows, visits to hospitals, benefits of some sort or another. And we love the song. And it carries a wonderful, important, universal message. And we love the fact that children sing it to their parents and their grandparents, and there's all that back and forth thing. The song came to us from Chicago. Did you ask me how we got it? I don't think you did,
Sure.
but I'll tell you anyway.
Please.
When we made our first record, we needed to raise $20,000 for the record and for the lawyer. So we went to our family and friends, all of whom had heard us sing individually, not collectively, because we hadn't sung collectively. But we had a lot of support from family and friends. And Lois went to Chicago, where she was from, and begged some money from her family there. But she also got together with her young cousin Lisa and said, have you learned any great songs? And Lisa taught her Skinnamarink. Lisa was a little girl, and she'd learned it at Girl Guide Camp, I think.
Yep.
And that's how it came back to us. And Lois said, I think this is a nice song. Let's do it. So she sang the melody, I sang the harmony. Bram played, he likes to say, ukulele sounding guitar. but it came to have a new life. Perhaps you could tell about the book, how that was born.
Yeah. Well, we have a beautiful bookstore in Toronto called the Flying Dragon Bookstore. It's a children's bookstore. It's been around forever.
Mabel's
Fables. Oh my goodness.
Flying
yeah.
Flying Dragon.
We had two good bookstores.
Flying Dragon didn't survive, but Mabel's did. Mabel's Fables.
Yes. So every time you want to buy a gift for a baby, this was the bookstore that we would go to. And my mom was friends with the owner, and she kept on saying, you know, you should do a book project. And our publisher, Jennifer Mitchell at Casablanca, was also pushing for it. And it was the right time, I guess.
And we had a meeting the first meeting with the publisher was at Mabel's Fables bookstore. So all the important players came together.
Right.
And the editor that we met with, our publisher, I guess she is, Tara, yeah, she was keen. She was also a child probably of the 80s. So she knew the music, she knew us, so she was keen. But
It helps.
And we had no idea what we were embarking on. Randy was really the link between the publisher, the editor, and us. You know, the communication went between Randy and the editor.
She told me they're going to do a book of the song, and I said, it's going to need more words. It's really short.
Yes.
And I'm not a control freak, but I just wanted to have the opportunity to make sure that it was their message.
It had to reflect our feelings and our values.
So I was like lying in bed, and I started writing down ways I love you this way and that way. So there was seasons, there was geographic locations, there was emotional, like, you know, I love you when you're happy and when you're blue. So I did a whole bunch of different permutations of that and fiddled with it. And so that was what we took to the first meeting with the editor. And that meeting was to look at illustrators for the book, to try and pick somebody. And you know, as I sat with the words, it occurred to me that it would be nice to musically introduce it, because in addition to it becoming a book, it was also hopefully going to be a song. And it ended up having a preamble, a musical preamble, and then a musical ending. So
and verses in between each other.
Yeah.
So it was very wise of Randy to realize that we should be responsible for the message of the book, and not someone that the publisher would choose.
Yeah.
And she said to me and Bram, would you let me take a crack at it? And then she came up with wonderful verses. And from the moment, and then shortly after things moved forward, we recorded that version of it. And we used it in the final touring shows. We used it with the new verses always. And the beauty of it is that we can introduce the new verses and people are still there with you on the part that they know. As
Right.
you know, I'm sure.
Bram would always say, don't worry, it's still got all of the parts that
you know.
you know. And people are desperate to sing it at the end of the show. They're really ready to participate in it. But what it's done is it's extended it. So they get to, you know, between each of the verses, they get to sing the Skinnamarink do I Love You. And there's more to it. So we were lucky.
And as far as the illustrations, as you said, it's very big. It's very beautiful. We met up, the publisher put us together. We looked at many things, and then she eventually put us together with Chin Lang. And she put us together as a team, but not physically together. We never met her until our first concert on the big tour. All the communication, and this was new for us because we've had some songbooks, but no experience like this where the publisher is here and we feed to the publisher, she feeds to Chin feeds back to, you know, that kind of communication. We'd never done anything quite like that, but it worked like a charm.
And we, you know, we had talked about, like my vision for it was a cumulative parade, like that it builds up and keeps including more and more people and everything. So we had, we had an idea about some directional types of things, but really it was up to Chin to try and figure out how to create
how to represent
a visual narrative and how to capture the different verses to make it all a nice cohesive thing. And I think she did a phenomenal
She did a wonderful job. We're people comment on the illustrations all the time, and rightly, because they are beautiful. But you know, she didn't just get the words and do the illustrations. There was a lot of back and forth with the kind of, we wanted to be sure, for example, that every child who looks at the book will see himself or herself there. We wanted to represent different cultures. So those things were really important to us.
Culture, ethnicity, religion, different abilities, you know, glasses, wheelchair, headscarf, kippa, yarmulke, those kinds of things. And the other thing we wanted was for people to not get tired of looking at it. So we wanted like secondary visuals in there. So
story within a story kind of thing.
There were a couple of children's books that I had enjoyed reading with my kids. One of them was Phoebe Gilman's Something from Nothing, which has, it's a beautiful story.
I Had an Old Coat. It's the song that
right, of course.
That's the source of that song.
So there's a story on the top and then there's a story underneath. So it's a family on the top, then it's a family of mice underneath. And then there's an author who did Goodnight Gorilla and 10 Minutes Till Bedtime. And 10 Minutes Till Bedtime, I can't remember the author's name right now, but it's got a kid and his hamsters. So dad's yelling 10 minutes till bedtime and the kid's getting ready for bed. And he's brushing his teeth and the hamsters are, you know, jumping in the water and they're swimming and doing things like that. So just the idea of having something where you can, as you get older, you can find things. And if the parent's looking with the kids, they can point them out. And just, there's just little nice extras in there, we hope.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love that it's so inclusive. I love that the spine, you know, is basically a rainbow. And I have found too that the more you look through it, like you said, the more you find. Every time I open the book, there's something that I didn't see, you know, the time prior. And so there's sort of layer after layer, texture after texture, which I think is a really cool thing. And I did want to ask too, I got so excited to be talking to you that I completely dropped my first two questions because I was like, you know, but I did want to.
Talk so much that you're going to have to make this into a series at the rate we're doing.
Feel like the third show, right? But I did want to ask, everybody knows you as Sharon, but when I introduced you as Sharon Hampson because you do have, a last name and identity outside of Sharon. And I must assume that for people who only know you from your music and your show, that can be kind of a revelation that Sharon is not just Sharon.
It's very funny. In a series of shows we did, we would start by saying, in 1978, we made this record and lost our last names. So most everyone knows me and refers to me that way. Some years ago, a friend of Randy's, who was a high school friend, her daughter actually was on Skinnamarink TV with us, but Karen came they came to my house one day, I guess, Randy and Karen called me Mrs. Hampson. And it was so weird. I said to her, all the children across the country can call me Sharon. You can call me Sharon too. So I'm proud of my last name because it belonged to my husband, and who is long gone, but with us still. And I also came from a very informal community. My parents' friends, we didn't call anyone Mr. or Mrs. Everyone was first name.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a natural thing, wouldn't you say?
100%. Yeah.
Sure.
I was surprised actually when I started going to, I mean, when I was growing up, everyone was auntie and uncle. Like,
Close friends,
just the
yeah.
close friends had that name. And I would go to classmates' houses and be introduced to Mr. and Mrs. And that always took me by surprise.
It was never our household.
Right. No, it's funny. It's weird because, I worked in a school I went to school and then I worked in the same school that I had, gone through as a child. And a lot of the teachers that I was working with had taught me. And it was the weirdest thing. They'd be like, call me Rita, call me this, call me that. And I'm like, I don't think I can.
Yeah.
Like, it was odd. But
we did concerts all over, and in high school I played in the high school orchestra, and I loved it. I was thrilled, and we used to go to do competitions, Kiwanis Club stuff at Massey Hall, which is a big important venue here. And many years later, we played at Massey Hall, and my high school music teacher came, and he came back. I didn't know he was there, but he came backstage after the show, and I said, and I have a career. I'm an older person by then. Look, everybody, it's Mr. Snell. So back to the Mr. stuff.
right. Oh, that's so great. And Randy, I have to ask you, so you grew up, during the height of everything with the elephant show and the concerts. And of course, your mom, Sharon, was Sharon to everybody. She was sort of a, surrogate mother, friend, teacher to the world, but she was also your mother. Was that odd? I mean, was that difficult? And do you have a different perspective on it now that you're grown and you're a mother of your own and you've sort of experienced the legacy with the benefit of hindsight?
It was never difficult. First of all, I was very, very proud and excited for what they were doing, but they were very inclusive. So every time I found a fun song that I got a kick out of, I would share it with them.
She brought us some great songs.
And so, I would practice with them. If my dad was writing harmonies, I would sometimes run harmonies with them. So I sold records at the concert. I was an elephant. Over time, I worked on the TV show looking for songs for them, that sort of thing. So in terms of the surrogate parent piece, I really came to learn about that during the 40th anniversary tour, because I traveled with them, and Bram would often make a point of saying, go say hi to Sharon's daughter in the lobby, and people would come up to me and tell me their stories. And that's when I really learned about people who had hard childhoods, and that the elephant show was their escape. One woman told me that she learned how to parent from watching the elephant show and watching how Sharon, Lois, and Bram interacted with the children. And people would wait around if we were in a place where they were doing a meet and greet. People would wait patiently to tell Sharon and Bram how much their music meant to them as adults. They're bringing their kids now and their grandchildren. And that's when I really realized how I mean, I knew that they were famous, and I knew that people loved their music and loved singing, but everywhere we went, people talked about the impact that they had on their lives. So
Yeah, and I
very,
have to ask you about that, Sharon, because I know that there was a huge response to that tour. And, there's so much living online now with social media and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter that even those of us who couldn't be there at the shows were, seeing the shows and the meet and greets and all these people who were so excited to meet you. So what is it like, to have people coming up to you who were children who grew up on your show and on your music and who are now bringing that to their own children, their grandchildren, and they still feel, I mean, talk about the power of nostalgia. But, 40 years later, they're coming to your show and they're as excited, if not more so, than the kids that they have with them who are probably their excuse to be there to begin with.
And some of them even turned up without any children. There was a whole row of young adults in Edmonton, I think it was. And I spotted them from the stage and said, I think some of you are here without any children. Stand up and show us who you are. And this whole row of young people stood up and waved. It was wonderful.
and toasted with their wine.
Cheers.
The thing is, when we didn't embark on a career, but once the career got going, you hope to succeed. But no one could ever have imagined that kind of response. I mean, the loving our music and loving the fact that it's inclusive, that includes not just the children, but their parents, and the parents don't run screaming from the room when our music is playing. When they drop the kids off at school, they leave our music playing as they go off to work. Nobody could have anticipated anything like that. However, I obviously find those kind of stories very touching. And we've heard lots of them. I mean, on that tour, there was a woman way in the north who was she had a very hard life, and she waited, but as we were signing autographs, she waited. She wanted to be the last person, and she needed to tell me that story. And she told me the story about the hardship of her life. I mean, sometimes I get weepy hearing these stories because people have had hard luck, and yet lots of them make it through, but they're not here without some wounds from that time, obviously. So if the music is soothing and healing, hooray.
So let me ask you, and then I'm going to come back to you in a second, Randy, but what do you think about your music, your show? Why do you think that it has resonated the way it has? Because, entertainers come and go, and children's entertainers come and go, and Sharon, Lois, and Bram have proved to be, forever. So what is it about the music, and is there anything in, your treatment of children or how you conceive these things that you think has had the lasting impact, the reason for that lasting impact?
You're a great observer because you make really good observations. The way we treated children, I think, is a big factor, because the fact is that the three of us all like children. We weren't going to learn to like children in order to enhance the career. We all came to it in a very natural way. We all like children. We like being with them, and we listen to them. When we talk to them, we don't talk down to them. And when they have something to say, we pay attention to that. So you combine that with music that reaches across generations, because we use the best musicians and arrangers and so forth. So when you create that kind of music with a healthy respect for children and appreciation for them, I think those are pretty good. We also came around at a very lucky time.
Yeah.
When people could take a chance buying a record for $7 or whatever they cost, on buying a recording from someone they've never heard of. So there was an element of luck, but I think we had something to offer as well. We did.
Sure, and it's funny in looking back because, it started as, vinyls and LPs, and then it was cassette tapes and CDs, and now you've gone digital with Sharon, Bram, and friends, and, vinyl's in vogue again, so it's all coming back, and it's like this full circle thing. It's kind of crazy. But I wanted to ask you, Randy, so you've had a life outside of this as well. You work in the law, and, you've managed the group. And I think that, you're largely, I would guess, responsible for this great presence online and for the tour and for the book and for the CD when Sharon and Bram actually decided to go back into the studio and record again, which we were all just waiting for, only a matter of time.
And it never dawned on us. I mean, it was so many years since we had recorded. It was crazy. Yeah, and it was thrilling, of course.
Yeah, but can you talk about the balance, how you balance your career, your children, but also, sort of overseeing the legacy of Sharon, Lois, and Bram and how you've sort of introduced it to another generation and through social media invited all of us who experienced it the first time around to re-experience it because it's, like I said, it's never really gone away, but it's really easy to be a part of it again.
Well, I drifted in and out over the years in terms of how much or how little I was involved. I worked in their office when I was in my 20s and worked on the Elephant Show. And, I was always involved and interested to some degree. But when they had their 35th anniversary party, they were planning it, and I don't exactly know how, but I think you said you want to help us, and I ended up taking over. So, and sort of realizing that, I'm connected to the musicians they've toured with over the years, and Grant Slater, our keyboard player, and I share a love of the group Tower of Power. So I'm pregnant and I'm driving to Buffalo where they're playing because Tower of Power is playing in a local bar that night. So there's all
Strong
sorts of
connections, lovely.
different connections. Lois's son is he's my oldest friend since we were 3. And he and I both ended up living in California together. So when something exciting was happening with our mothers, we would fly together to New York, to Lincoln Center or Carnegie Hall, or to LA where they're recording a Christmas album. So after the 35th anniversary, I would do things from time to time with them or for them. And then when Lois died, they wanted to have an event to celebrate her life. And we had a team, but I sort of ended up producing the event. And
it was an amazing event. I mean, it was an amazing event.
Well, it ended up sort of bringing me back in again. And my mom and Bram were sort of winding down a little bit. And when we organized the Celebrating Lois event, and I was also interested in trying to get a documentary film project going, we ended up meeting with Jennifer Mitchell, who is their record distributor and their music publisher. And I don't know, just between us, we said, this needs to be bigger again. And I said, let's just try and go out with a bang. So we talked to the booking agent and said, I want you to sell a bigger show. I want you to tell people that they're touring with the band. They're saying goodbye to their fans across Canada. And my mom was nervous.
That's my
nervous. When the National Arts Center said they wanted them to come and play, she said, it's going to be empty. And it wasn't. It was fabulous. It was beautiful. They did 5 sold out shows at the Young People's Theatre, which is where they had their very first concert as a trio in Toronto. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I'm so grateful for that opportunity because
having Randy in charge made our lives so profoundly improved. Life was a lot easier. She took care of everything. All we had to do was get on the stage.
Right.
And you were going to say how much you didn't exactly love the work you were doing.
I'm a divorce lawyer, so I like to help people and try to help them deal with that part of their lives. But it's, emotionally very taxing. Yeah. And to spend every day watching them giving pleasure to families. I mean, they walk in and they're excited and they leave and they're singing and they're just so happy. I mean, that's fuel for the soul.
Sure. And I have to ask you too, because you mentioned that, back in the day, you were responsible for bringing a lot of the songs to Sharon, Lois, and Bram that were ultimately recorded. So can you tell us maybe what some of those were? And how do you know when you hear a song that that's the song that your mom and her friends should be singing?
Here, well, let's do this one. I am slowly going crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, switch. Crazy going slowly am I. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch.
I'm slowly going crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, switch. Crazy going slowly am I. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch. I am slowly going crazy.
Slowly am I.
Crazy going slowly am I. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch. So
That is the best way to answer that question. I didn't even have to pay for a ticket. I'm like, man.
She also, I mean, she introduced us to many songs and many games which were terrific. One that I particularly loved, and I loved it because it's a funny song, and the way it was filmed out for the Elephant Show was terrific. It's called "Who's Got the Suitcase?" And we were running around packing. Did you bring it up? No, yeah. No.
that's like,
on a
let's
picnic.
go. It's getting late. Wait a minute. Wait. Who's got the suitcase?
You've got the suitcase.
No, you've got the suitcase.
No, you've got the suitcase.
I ain't got the suitcase.
I ain't going nowhere.
Right.
So hard to remember. It was a very cute video, and it was.
We're gonna stay right at home. Who's got the baby? You've got the baby.
No, you've got the baby.
Uh-oh. And you know what I love too about your music is it's not just children music. You've done folk songs, you've done pop standards. I mean, it's listening back, Rock Around the Clock, and you did that whole Let's Dance album with that music from the 50s and the 60s. And again, I think what a great way to draw parents in, but also what a great way to introduce, children to a songbook that they probably otherwise wouldn't know.
Exactly. The thing is that Lois and I used to teach classes called Music for Children, for preschool children. We did that for several years. She created that program actually, and it was terrific. And we would it'd be like a 10-week session or something like that with 10 or 12 kids. And each week a child would get to bring a record and we'd play their favorite song. And some of them were crazy, shocking choices. But we used to say to parents, your children are going to like what you play in the house, what you like, what you listen to, that's going to be an influence on them. And so we would say, be sure to buy, if you're going to buy records, buy good ones. Don't buy the K-Tel 50 favorite hits or something like that.
Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water was my go-to as a kid.
Yeah.
And Hair.
Of course. And taking it back to Tower of Power, my aunt is crazy for them. So I can completely understand that. I'm sure she would have been driving there 9 months pregnant, But it is funny how some of that music just sort of takes root. And I'm that way with Gloria Estefan. Like, she can do anything and I'll show up. I drove to Canada to see her because her concerts were so infrequent. And she ended up coming to Canada for her big 2-show tour. And it was amazing. But unfortunately, you weren't touring then, or it would have been like, I don't know if I could have handled it, Sharon.
We are hoping that with this Zoom concert that our American friends who haven't been able to, Bram and Sharon didn't tour in the US on this final tour, and that maybe some of our American friends will join in. I was looking at Spotify, and our streaming numbers are, Toronto is the #1 city for listeners, and then numbers 2 to 5, and they switch between, Chicago is 4th or 5th, but the others are Brisbane, Auckland, and Sydney, Australia.
Wow. So all over the world. All right, so I'm going to start to wind this up because I know you have things to get back to, but I thought I would ask you both. And you can bring the concert into this because you are having a virtual live interactive concert. It's going to be on August 27th, and there are some really great prizes that people who purchase tickets might be eligible to win. But music really has been, a family affair for you, Sharon, even growing up, and then with your husband and your children, and the three of you singing together. So can you talk about sort of that legacy of family music and how this virtual concert is going to be a celebration of that?
Well, that's sort of at the center of what we do and what we value. I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of singing, a lot of music, and so it was natural to me. And then for us to be able to do it with an audience that included, that was, had a universal inclusion. It wasn't what we wouldn't say, come to our concert for 4 to 8-year-olds. I mean, we never did anything like that. We didn't do it on our records either, because we really believe the best pleasure is when people make music together. I grew up with Pete Seeger, and he was a master song leader, and I learned from the experiences that he created that it was that the best good time was making music together.
But she's forgetting to mention the family element includes my son, her grandson, Ethan, on electric guitar
For the concert.
for the concert,
virtual,
and
yep.
his girlfriend Claire on bass, and my son Elijah
On voice.
is going to sing with us. He helped out on our Facebook Live the other day on a couple of songs, and my favorite was when he was singing the "He'll Have to Sleep with Grandma" verse and "Coming Round the Mountain."
Grandma.
Bram is going to be our special guest, and his brother Jeff, who is a dear friend, is going to play mandolin for us. And then Grant Slater, who has been playing keys for Sharon and Bram and Sharon, Lois Bram for the past 30 years, he and his wife Kim are going to be joining us as well. So
It's a family affair.
yeah,
We figure our family to families out there, and hopefully they'll gather in that kind of way.
we hope so.
But of course, it's my job to worry that nobody's going to come.
Always a mother's job to worry, and a performer's job. And if I read correctly, people who buy tickets are eligible, like they might get a special Zoom call with Sharon and Randy, which is awesome. I apparently have found a way to circumvent that because here we are. But I mean, what a great opportunity that could be. So can you tell us really quickly about that? What that might be?
We're trying to think of. So the interesting thing about selling an online concert is that you don't need to rush to get tickets in the front row. So
Everyone's in the front row.
we want to encourage people to let us know that they're planning to come. So, we have, I'm actually talking to our two friends who do the social media this afternoon to talk about some of the other things that we're going to do. But one of the things that we're offering is a Zoom visit with us, and maybe a little bit of personal interactive singing together. So that's one of the things. And we're going to have some packages that have autographs and CDs, and we have some lovely stuffies from Skinnamarink TV of CC and Ella that are also going to be up for
I love
grabs.
hearing all this stuff because
It's news to her.
I just turn up.
She's on a need-to-know basis.
That's the best way. That's how you know you have good management. I mean, you just show up and it works like clockwork. And I've been holding it over my mom's head because her birthday is August 27th. So I said, maybe we'll go to a concert on your birthday.
Yeah, we could sing a birthday song for her. We could.
You're so sweet. All right, final question. And then maybe you'll sing us out, but a little elephant whispered in my ear that there may be another children's book in the works. So can you maybe tease that for us?
Sure. Rhoda Randy.
The next book that we are working on is a beautiful version of One Elephant. And,
which will also have a different approach and different additional.
There's going to be a new spin on it. A really nice little musical introduction that leads us into the story of the elephant playing in the jungle. And the mama elephant had so much fun that she called for her baby elephant to come. And we'll just leave you to think about how that might unfold.
Yeah. And I'm sure, at least we have learned that writing a book, having a book released takes a lot. From conception to selling takes a long time.
Oh, it sure does.
Yeah. Like it's 2 years from now, probably, from till it's released. The other thing that will be happening is the Skinnamarink book will be released as a baby board book,
Eventually.
Slightly altered version of a baby board book. So that will probably precede the release of the next book. But we are working on the next 2 books, so we're very excited about that.
It's terrific. So you can continue for.
Hopefully we won't have to wait so long in the future.
Right. More generations to come, but that's fabulous. So I didn't ask, but might you sing us out? I mean, I think it would be appropriate to close with a little.
Do you want to do? We'll do the here. We're just deciding which version of it. I'll start.
Oh.
There's a little ditty that we all know and sing. We share it with our families and let our voices ring.
It also has some actions. They're really fun to do.
And now we'd like to sing this special song with all of you. Bum, 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 Skinnamarink, the accompaniment, Skinnamarink do. I love you. Skinnamarink dinky dink, Skinnamarink do. I love you. Put up the sun. I love you in the morning and in the afternoon. I love you in the evening underneath the moon. Skinnamarink dinky dink, Skinnamarink do. I love you too. Boop boop be doo. Mwah.
What an ending. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Sharon and Randy, for being here. What an honor. And again, everybody go online, check it out. Virtual concert August 27th, and you can get the Skinnamarink book right now. Why wait? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great chatting.
Enjoyed it.
That's it for this episode of Central Booking. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a thing.